Hey everybody, welcome back to Movie Master, where we rank, review, trailer react, and talk more news about movies, TV shows, and video games. Now, sorry for not being around for a while, a lot of stuff I had to get to, and finally, there's two more videos I'm going to be uploading today. This one will be finally my Amazing Spider-Man 2 rewrite. I wrote it like months ago, I planned on filming it, but then like a whole lot of stuff chunked in. So I dealt with that, and now I'm back into it, and I'm ready to do this. So let's continue it. So, this will be a continuation of my Amazing Spider-Man 1 rewrite, and we'll be continuing right where that left off. Now, if you have not seen my first one, don't worry, I'll leave my link to the first day of Amazing Spider-Man rewrite or recap in the comments down, in the description down below to watch, and I will indeed be writing my Amazing Spider-Man 3 video. Now, news and updates on my Transformers 4 rewrite. Now, yes, I've gotten a few comments about that. I have nothing against them. I've gotten a few comments about that. If you guys did like my rewrite, all good. Nice. If you guys didn't like my rewrite, that is very much okay. Do what you do. Have your opinion. That is very much your opinion. Now, nonetheless, I've checked out some other rewrites, so this is based partially on those rewrites with my own ideas in it, and kind of taking a few things I didn't like, throwing it out of the movie, and trying to make a much more focused film, and putting in a few ideas I like that set up a third film. Now, yeah, on that, here's some little notes I want to give you before we start the video. First note, it'll be kept realistic. Like, we'll have a very realistic and grounded tone. It'll still have a bit of a dark feel, but be more lighthearted, and we'll still have scenes in the day and night because, well, there was nothing wrong with that. And if it's gonna have if it's gonna shift to more of a lighthearted tone, have that light shift, like slowly shifted. And I think it would have been better if they did that instead of automatically, boom, going to a lighthearted tone. Electro will be the center core villain, as I believe Electro was a cool concept for a villain. And he even appeared in No Way Home, but the fact is, he was in an overstuffed movie where too many villains were there. In the promotional material, I saw Electro and Green Goblin as the main villains promoted in this film. But they were overshrouded by setup for other movies that never went anywhere. Peter Parker's parents, which was pointless and completely unneeded in this franchise. The fact that they changed Spider-Man's origins, including a big thing about Gwen Stacy's death. A lot of things that I think should have been changed and retconned out. So, yeah. But continuing on, Electro will be the main villain, no Green Goblin, no Rhino. And Gwen will not be dead, so she'll be still alive. Along with Captain Stacy. If you watch my last rewrite, Captain Stacy lived in that one. He did not die. Continuing, he's not wearing the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit to start off the movie. He'll be wearing the very first Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit from the very first movie. Nearly the identical suit, still having sewing marks from when it got damaged with a lizard. Peter still skateboards, because I think that was a cool, interesting aspect of the character, and it would make sense as besides Spider-Man, how he gets around town, so he still did that. Also, we will probably keep a bit of the James Horn theme song from the first movie as we slide in the Hans Zimmer's one that will take over the third one completely. With that, another thing is that no Peter Parker parents. I believe the parents should not even be really mentioned in this. Like, they get off-note mentions, or Peter finds the bag or something, just as off-note mentions to reference that plotline, but the plotline will resurface a bit more in my Amazing Spider-Man 3 rewrite. Now, let's start off. Now, the opening scene, as I've already said, no plane scene between Peter and his parents. As honestly, it didn't make sense for the film, and it led nowhere. That plotline went nowhere. Now, we would have probably gone somewhere for spin-offs that don't happen. The first job of being a movie is, you gotta be your own movie. If you're being a sequel, then be either a sequel to that movie. The first two things. One, be a movie. Be your own good movie. Even if you're a sequel, be your own movie. Stick to what you got as a movie. Two, be a sequel. Like, if you're gonna be a sequel, reference the stuff you have. Or if you're completely disconnect the sequel that's in the same universe, reference stuff like that, at least to connect the dots to the last movie, so people don't go, what the hell am I even watching? This isn't the case with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I'm just saying that. But continuing, the film will open straight off the bat with Rhino destroying stuff and like raising the stakes for New York City with the police chasing after him. Not a humongous amount of squad cars like the film said it would have, because that's a bit unrealistic for a police chasing and a bit too humongous and could cause a lot of damage. So there's police cars behind them and police cars starting to come en route, and we see them chasing on Rhino. Now, since Peter Parker takes a while to put on the Spider-Man suit, we don't see this happen. But the minute it happens, a bell tolls. So then we cut to black with Spider-Man diving from the Chrysler building and then swinging up with the exact same opening swing scene from the first movie, with him, well, swinging in the first suit from the first movie. So we see him swinging around and we see Rhino still causing some damage until Peter finally arrives, has a little chit chat with them. Then after that, finally decides to take the gun out of his hand, with the truck then swerving it near a safer area. And then after that, Rhino tries to swerve it into a populated area. So Spidey hops out, saves the guy from the taxi, then saves another guy. And then, well, during this, Max Dillon tries to get a bit of help, and then his plans get knocked out of his hands. And like in the film, Peter ends up saving them, then moving on to try and take down the Rhino. Now, the scene mostly happens similarly to the original scene, and we also see Captain Stacy trying to coordinate with his other members to basically try and take down the Rhino, and Spidey would land on the car, chat to him for a bit, and then after that, he would swing over, try to stop the car, and then eventually, after they stop the truck, well, we see the truck get stopped. Then the same scene happens where Peter takes out the other two goons. Then, well, Rhino drives off as Peter starts chasing Alexei Savage, who is Rhino's real identity. A bunch of the plutonium that gets knocked out of the truck. He grabs it, Spidey tries to grab it, and we still see the comedic scene of Peter trying to grab all of them at once, and then they fly out, so he webs them all to a light, and then goes to grab the other one, and then he gets hit by a car and is stuck on the car. Then he gets a call from Gwen about their graduation. So Peter has to say pretty much he can't make it. It'll take a while for him to make it, and then right next to him pulls up Captain Stacy's car, who tells him, it's time, how about we continue on with our job, saying a snarky quip like, hey, am I interrupting you or something? And then they'll get on to their job, and eventually Spidey would flip around other police cars and then eventually get back to the truck. And as we see this, we see Gwen saying the opening of her speech, and pretty much saying the opening of her speech and a lot more things. And we see her talking, and we see Peter saving the bus and taking the people down. And just we see him saving the bus, then eventually taking Alexei down and still pulling down his underpants and knocking him out with his own gun. And after all of this, we then see Peter swing back to his high school for his graduation. And we even get the funny Stan Lee cameo that he had. On a side note, happy 100th birthday to Stan Lee, which happened like about on Wednesday or Thursday. Happy birthday to him. Continuing on, Peter would still be late to his graduation because of stopping Rhino. After this, Peter would have a chat with Aunt May, and they would talk about his parents and how Uncle Ben should have been there. Then after that, goes over to talk to Gwen. And we'd even see a scene that was deleted that I think would have been cool to have in and finished his development from the last movie, is Flash Thompson, as his character arc came full circle in the first movie, with the second movie finally seeing how those effects affect this movie. We see Flash Thompson appear in this movie, happy, and seeing him goof off with Peter and Gwen. Now, this is an actual scene that was filmed. It's cut though, but you can find it on the DVD Blu-ray release, and you can find it on YouTube if you just search up Amazing Spider-Man 2 deleted scenes or Amazing Spider-Man 2 Flash Thompson scene, stuff like that. You'll find it on the internet. After his scene, next thing we see is Gwen and her family are going to get a photo together, so they get a photo, and Peter goes over and decides to be included in the photo. After this, they go get some dim sum and hang out, and we see them talk and chat, and eventually, after this, we see the montage. Eventually, the next morning, we then see the montage of Spider-Man stopping criminals, taking down bad guys, and a whole lot of other things. And the movie continues on as it does, and I don't know, after this point, at what point it happens to. But then we see Harry Osborn pop into the movie for a bit, pop out with Norman Osborn's death. Then we'll cut to Max Dillon, who's having his morning day. Now, his day sucks so far. His day is pretty much sucking a lot of bad. So, yeah, his day is not exactly going well. And as he gets home from work, we see the lights go off. And then in the extended scene we see him get angry at his mother, who forgot about his birthday. After this, we then realize that Max Dillon was actually once married. He was indeed in a relationship, but they divorced, and then he decided to leave the house and go live with his mother, who was sick. So he didn't. But things have not been going great for him, and he's kind of just really annoyed. And he's not a fanboy of Spider-Man, but he does appreciate everything Spider-Man does for the city, and appreciates him saving him, but he just doesn't care. And Max honestly just has a suckful life. Like, he wishes he could try and have a better life for himself. Like, he has the power to do a lot of good, and he's a really nice person, but life just sucks for him and isn't in his favor. So, we just see him having a not so great day. So with this, eventually we do meet Front. And now on a side note, even though, like in the original movie, I don't know however it happened in the original movie, I don't know when it happened. The film will continue as it does, and Harry Osborn is still introduced, and it's found out he has cancer, not a really weird movie made up sickness called the Osborn disease. It's an actual disease called cancer or Parkinson's. One of those things, because it's an actual thing. Parkinson's is actually the effect of the body shaking, which would match up with the shaking tremblings he has with his hands. And the reason as to why he has this sickness is that the father would say in the scene, you have the hand shaking. You got it earlier than me. Something along the lines of saying a line like that, and then saying the descriptive of how it feels and how you can feel the coldness shivering. All of this. And that's what he would say. And it would be something more realistic, like, I don't know, cancer or Parkinson's or something else. Something along that line. Whatever you want it to be, it's that kind of disease, and it actually starts killing them. No, it's not COVID. We are not doing that. This is 2014, then COVID-19 yet. But on the main note, eventually later on, the film will continue on, and, well, yeah, mostly the film will continue on as it does. But eventually we then see Peter and, I believe, no. Next we see on the main note, we then eventually see Max Dillon get his powers. Now, when he does get his powers, it's mostly as realistic as you can get it. Whilst this is happening, prior to the events of this, a lot of other things did happen like in the film was originally supposed to. And then after this, Max Dillon gets his powers as well as realistic as you can give a guy his powers. And whilst this is happening, Peter is on a date with Gwen. They're chatting, they're having fun. And whilst this is all happening, we cut back to Electro. In a scene when he's walking down the road and we see his electric powers activating. And then we see him touch a car, drain its battery, then walk down a side road, not really feeling well and shaking and trembling. And then he looks at Times Square, sees all the electricity flowing from it, and goes into Times Square. Now, when he starts draining it, obviously a cop starts noticing and people start to notice. With this in the far distance, as Peter's on his date with Gwen, he hears a sound. His spider sense starts to tingle, and he hears sounds coming from Times Square. So he runs over there to go help. Now, in this film, there's no mention of Oxford. Oxford is not yet coming up in this movie. Gwen is not yet going to Oxford. She hasn't even thought about it yet. This isn't even offered to her in this movie. This will be offered in the next movie when she gets accepted to Oxford. Now, continuing. Whilst this does happen, an extended version prior to him, when he does get his powers, an extended version of the morgue scene happens where he wakes up in the morgue, all that, gets his powers, gets clothes, runs off. Now, cutting back to the main note, the fight with Electro pretty much remains the same, except we don't see any sniper in the scene. Peter isn't trying to talk down the guy, he's just trying to take him down, quipping a bit, calling him Sparky, Electro, and a few other things, and there's not this silly thing where there's crowds of people literally watching an entire fight happen like it's just something you see on television, or like a stage play. Because one, that is not realistic. People do not hang around for that stuff unless they're idiots or because they're fans of them. And two, there was actually behind the scenes reason for that. It's because people and fans were there to watch them film. But there's a thing called CGI where you can edit them out with visual effects. But instead, no, there's a crowd of them there, and then all of a sudden there's some of these random extras running away from New York City because of damage from billboards. Which makes absolutely no sense. But yes, basically, what Electro is trying to do is try to go to he's pretty much trying to go towards his one goal of getting more electricity and trying to find Oscorp, where he got his powers again, because he's trying to go back there and find out some answers. After this, eventually they battle. He's defeated, but he escapes. He's not kidnapped. He's not taken into custody by the cops. He escapes. Peter then moves on, and it actually tore up his suit. His suit was damaged because the fight was a bit longer. His suit was heavily damaged from the battle in this fight. After we then see Peter later on get back home with his suit torn up. And later on, we even see him trying to make his web shooters more electric proof and even update his suit. After this, he then decides to finally update his suit. We see it take a little while. And then he finally has his new suit, which is insulated, a bit more insulated and more breathable, so it can be more flexible. It has a more wider wear pattern, but not as wide as the one from Amazing Spider-Man 2, but more wider wear pattern to make it look more, pop more and look much more simplistic of a design. Have new soles on the boots, new web shooters that are much more different designed, and he would have a redesigned wear pattern, new slightly tweaked versions of his lenses. Like, they're a bit bigger than the ones he had before, and they're white or silver. So, and he is wearing, and it won't be hot when he's wearing normal clothes, so it's insulated but cools down when he's not wearing, normal clothes. And it has new gloves and boots. And a lot more things. A few more upgrades, and we then see a dramatic scene where it reveals a suit, and then later on, well, it continues on with the film continues on as it does. Eventually, later on, not long after this, the film continues on as goes. Eventually, Peter does end up reuniting with Harry, and they end up chatting and getting along, and then talking about relationships and life. And after this, the film will continue to go mostly relatively the same, and continues to go the same until we finally see the scene where, well, so to basically say this, after we see his suit get revealed, we eventually see him napping after a long day of trying to make his webs electric proof. He then gets a call from Harry to come to Oscorp. So he goes to Oscorp, and as a lead scene shown, we find out he's Swin. He skateboarded there, along with Swinny. We eventually find out that he indeed was researching about Harry, and eventually meets up with Harry, and Harry announces he's sick. Now, this scene is actually a deleted scene where Peter goes to Oscorp directly, and Harry tells him, instead of phone calling them like they do in the actual cut. Now, Peter and Harry, like in the original cut and the deleted version, we see them talking about, like, a cure or a serum they're working on involving spiders that his father and Peter's father were working on. So Richard and Norman Osborn were indeed working on a serum with spiders to help you heal it was like a healing drug. It was like a serum that could help heal you, save your life. But all of them were dead. All the spiders were killed by Richard Parker. It's even referenced that Harry found out a while later, all the spiders were killed by Richard Parker on the day he left. After this, Harry tries to convince him to help him, so he agrees to. Later on after that, we see that Peter is now running into Gwen, who's trying to find the info on Max Dillon, hide in the closet. Peter accidentally kisses her like they do in the original cut, except it's not because of them being broken up. He just wanted to. So after this, he then distracts them while Gwen escapes. And then after this, we see Peter leave, and then Gwen have a little talk with Harry. After Peter leaves Oscorp, we then see most of the movie play out relatively the same until we get to the point where Peter goes to Harry Osborn to tell him that he's Spider-Man. Now, a few things are cut. The entire scene where Peter and Aunt May talk is completely omitted from the film. Any plotline relating to the Peter Parker's parents plotline is omitted. Peter, when he catches up with Harry, still talks about his parents, but not in such a mean way. Like, he didn't get everything from them. He just says, like sort of like in a way that he's gotten over it, but it's still something he's curious about, like, what happened to them. And we do see a scene, like, after the montage where he finds his dad's suitcase, but he chucks it in the closet and then webs the door shut, so. But after this, after Peter leaves Oscorp, the movie mostly continues on as goes. We see Peter stop some crimes as Spider-Man, and a few other things that mostly happened in the real film. After this, and later on, Peter goes to talk to Harry about not giving him his blood. And Harry does not react in a very stupid way. Yeah, Peter just tells him he can't give him his blood, it might kill him. So a day later, Harry goes to the Daily Bugle and announces that Spider-Man is a menace and is a criminal and should be hated. After this, next, Elektra decides to attack Harry Osborn and Oscorp because he puts the blame on them for him getting his powers. So he goes to Oscorp to find them and to kill them. So he would end up going to the power plant where Elektra would decide to disable the whole thing. So with this, Peter goes to the power station knowing what it could be, and then thanks to Gwen gets his web shooters electro-proof when Elektra causes an entire blackout. Webs Gwen stays to the car, leaves her there, then Peter escapes, runs off, and goes to fight Electro. The final battle is mostly the same in most ways, but Electro's suit is a bit different, with it being the similar black security guard suits, but it's not tipless gloves. The gloves are indeed these very superpowered gloves that have a little shock pad, a pad over there where the electricity can disperse out, with little nice detailing on the other side, and dials spinning to show that he indeed uses electricity, and they blast out like repulsor blasts with a little gauntlet thing over here that's powered up. He powers it up with electricity and then blasts it out using his engineering skills to whip it up. And it's green and yellow, similar to his color scheme. We even see yellow lightning bands go down here and there's a belt. And then the rest of the suits are mostly similar, just like some lining, some green and yellow lining. And we see his electricity buzz off and electrify. Continuing on with this, the battle goes mostly the same. Gwen Stacy still hits him with the car, and then Peter and Gwen argue that Gwen shouldn't be there. But Gwen says that due to being working at Oscorp, and due to knowing Max Dillon and even researching a bit about how to disable the power plant, she knows how to disable the power plant. Peter says that she shouldn't be there, that she can't be there, but Gwen says that it's her choice to be there, so as she runs off, Peter goes to fight Elektra, and right as he's on the brink, Captain Stacy comes in to save him, using a very newly created weapon to help deal with, well, super beings like Electro. With this, Peter and Captain Stacy are able to take him down, and then eventually, in the same way, similar to the original, Peter takes down Electro by killing him. After taking him down and killing him, right before he dies, he does actually learn the true name of Spider-Man, Peter Parker. He learns the name, not the face, the name. He learns about his name through some way. I don't know. Mostly one way he eventually ends up learning the name being uttered by Gwen, by accident, in the Oscorp power plant. And as he actually gets up before they start fighting again, he actually sends a very skewed, messed up version of the Itsy Bitsy Spider-Song. And after that, we see them get back into their fight, and then they fight. All the fighting happens. Captain Stacy shows up, and during the fight before Elektra's death, he actually killed Gwen Stacy, struck a fatal blow on them by throwing around different pieces of the power plant at Spider-Man that he dodged. So, with him defeating Electro, we see Spider-Man look up there, then look over to Captain Stacy and say, "Captain," and then run over them, and a similar death scene, similar to the original first Amazing Spider-Man movie, would play out with the injured Captain Stacy, and, well, instead of him saying the Lizard, it's Captain Stacy saying Electro, and then them all talking about how he's been taken down, and eventually we see Captain Stacy ask Peter to not tell Gwen that Spider-Man and to keep her out of it. Although Gwen already knew, he told him that keep her out of it, he wants her safe, promise me, and then he dies, and we see the same exact emotional scene, and as he gets up to look at the whole area around him, he stares directly at the webs where Elektra's body once was, and then we see the scene of a wide shot of the entire power plant as it zooms out, and we see the scene of Captain Stacy's funeral with everyone leaving, and Peter looks above, down at Gwen, with sadness that he couldn't be there, but watches from a distance. Later on, the same scene with Peter and Gwen breaking up happens in the film with them breaking up. And after that, Aunt Meg convinces Peter to date her again. Eventually, though, Peter goes back to her and apologizes to her and asks, can they be friends? And she says maybe, but just give her time. And after that, we do see Peter and Harry catch up, and Peter telling Harry about this. And Harry feels really sorry and tries to be there for him in his best way. And Peter says maybe the best way for him to get his mind off it is that he said he will agree to work with Harry on this. And eventually later we see him after this apologize to Gwen calls accepting his apologies, saying they want to be friends. So in a bittersweet movie ending scene, we see Peter swing off into the sunset. Very bittersweet, but not exactly happy. Which is why we see like a very gloomy day, like it's cloudy, but we have blue skies, with the scene setting that Peter's in an odd mood. He doesn't know what will happen next. All we know is that Peter's got to keep Gwen safe and put her at an arm's distance. The film ends on an odd note, setting up more to come for a third film. That is mostly it. Now, yes, it didn't exactly make a lot of sense. I kind of had to fill in a few blanks, but yeah, that was mostly the script of it. I thought I was really, really good with this one, and it sets up a lot of things that I do indeed want to pay off in the third film. Now, Felicia Hardy does indeed appear in this second film, and overall, I did quite enjoy making this rewrite. The next rewrite, I'll try to make sure it makes a lot more sense and a lot more well written, and includes a lot more detail from the action parts. It will include parts of the actual Amazing Spider-Man 2 in there, like direct beat for beat scenes. So, yeah. Well, that's mostly it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. This is my second to last video of the year. Sorry for delaying the last video. It took a while to make it. Now, for my Transformers 4 people, one commenter in specific, not like calling him out like he's done anything bad. I'm just not giving a shout to him. It's been really awesome getting to talk to this guy about like Transformers stuff. He's been asking a lot of questions, and now I am writing this script for Transformers 4 rewrite, but just give me a bit of time, as you know this takes a while, and I'm trying to whip up ideas on what I want to do, and I'll throw a few dots at the board to see what I think sticks, and then I'll take a few ideas down to see what I don't think fits, and if they don't work, I'll either scrap them completely or move them on to the other projects I have lined up. Because I do plan on like making a few ideas, like I do plan to at least do a rewrite for Transformers 4 and 5, a spin-off from Transformers 4 featuring Cade Yeager, and a few other small Transformers storylines that will be put into either 2 video packs or 1. Now I've got really good ideas for Transformers 4 that I'm going to write, some ideas for Transformers 5, and a lot more. Just give me some time, and by next year I should have that written up. After all of that, then I will probably focus on The Amazing Spider-Man 3. So this video and The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will have a big gap. Now, I'm not doing anything past The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I plan to only make this a trilogy of rewrites because I think it would strengthen the storyline, make it short, use up all the good ideas, and in the next movie, I will have a pretty good 2-villain duo in this movie. And I already have like a few ideas of how I want certain scenes to go, and I think it will be a pretty good movie and custom writing. And I'm actually already halfway through writing it right now, so expect it at some point in the future. Nonetheless, thank you for watching this video, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Sorry for the late videos, but now we must go to the last video this year, the reflection video. See you guys in a few minutes. Or as someone once said, see you in a bit.